Hi! Are you thinking about buying one of these newfangled things? Maybe it's an older fangled thing. Tell you what, if there's more than this video in the search results, you should probably go watch one of them. They're gonna be better. But as of right now, it's October 2024, and there is nothing online about it. So, as someone that likes to read at least 50 reviews, I didn't want to buy it, but I did it. Anyway, I don't normally do this type of thing, but I figured, here's 1 out of 50. Let's take a look. Up top, don't want to waste your time. There's no snow out there, so this is not a full review, just an unboxing. Let's take a look. In my kitchen, because I'm too lazy to haul this box anywhere else. So we've got the SNT2134 here. The SNT2130 is the tool-only version. 2134 has the two 6-amp-hour batteries and the dual-port charger included. Previous versions have had the dual 5-amp-hour batteries and the 7.5-amp-hour batteries. So this kind of splits the difference in between. We'll see how that pans out. If you're thinking about getting this, they're gonna have it shipped rather than pick it up in store. Be aware, it ships as shown here. No additional packaging or protection. It's a big box, it's a heavy box. Here's me for comparison now. And here's how mine looked when it was delivered at my house. Let's get it open. As with most things Ego, it comes mostly assembled, minus the chute, I believe. We'll take a look at that, and we'll see how everything fared in shipping. All right. Note the handle may not be locked when it arrives at your doorstep. Double check that before pulling it out of the box. The manual here says they should be ship locked, but mine definitely weren't, so your mileage may vary. With that out of the box, we've got the two 6-amp-hour batteries stashed down here. Manuals. And over here we've got the dual port charger. Looks like one of my battery boxes took a hit. I may have some damage on the battery. We'll check it out. No rattles. Looks okay. Each battery here with a partial charge, no error codes flashing here, so hopefully we are good. Scene change, hat change, side note, register your tools, super quick, create an account, pick the category, pick the tool, put in your serial numbers, upload a receipt. All the tools have a 5-year warranty, the batteries come with 3, you can get 5 on the 10 amp, do it. Be good to go for the warranty if you need it. Save your receipt. Part of the reason everything here is so expensive is because they're factoring in having to replace some of these that are duds. Make it easier on yourself. Register it right away. Don't try and jump through hoops later on when you can't find the receipt and they're giving you a hard time. Back to the kitchen. Dual port charger here is nothing new as far as I'm aware. Haven't had one before, but similar to the standard one, just with 2 sides. Drop one in, drop the other, let it go. Only comment there, dual port charger has no mounting solution compared to the original one, which could be well mounted. These, I suppose you can build a shelf, so on top of the shelf, but wouldn't want to block the fan outputs in order to keep the batteries cool and healthy. Thick old stack of manuals and a single Allen key for assembly. And hanging out down there from when I pulled it out of the box, there's the chute, which is but is not attached. So we'll get that put on later. Here for adjusting the handle, they've got plastic part meshing with plastic part. Don't know that I really love that. Also not sure how I feel about this lever they've got for securing each side. If once you get that lever wrenched on down, the handle's still not quite tight enough where you'd like it to be, we got a through bolt running through onto this side. With a nut you can tighten up and adjust and swing that lever again. Cap it off with the rubber plug. Wash done. For the handle adjustment, we've got 3 different settings. 1, 2, 3. There's 3. 2. And 1 as far as the angle. Looking at the handle adjustment mechanism compared to my 6-year-old lawnmower here. Lawnmower single action, metal part, squeeze, lift, locks into place, locks into place, locks into place. One-handed adjustment. Here, a lot of play in those handles until they're locked in. Having to get those plastic teeth to set in place just right. Squeeze in, squeeze in. Feels pretty solid locked in, but still not sure I like it. Replacing metal with plastic. As someone that's going to be opening and closing the handle pretty often for storage in between uses, the extra steps, the fiddliness, it's a bit of a pain. If you got plenty of storage, don't have to close it down in between, not a big issue. Stays locked in, should be solid. And now let's look at that chute. Here on the chute, we've got 2 pre-installed socket cap screws to undo and redo, plus a molded piece on the back to accept the back of the chute. Pulling out the included Allen wrench. Aligning our slots on the back of the chute, the outside of that molded part slides right in there. And then take your washer and socket cap back into place. Careful not to scratch the finish. Probably end up with some extra cord here from how it was hanging loose underneath from the packing, so be able to just shove that into the housing a bit more, keep it from getting in the way. With this new model, they finally have addressed the issue of their single-stage snowblowers grinding on this edge, prematurely rusting the housing, and destroying the scraper bar way sooner than it should. Some people having to replace theirs every 2 or 3 times they would use it. However, the skid shoe is proprietary, and I don't love it. These ones included are shaped ever just so to fit around the scraper bar and up inside. Here's the geometry we're looking at on the inside for that skid to fit around. So, notched around the scraper bar and sitting inside. For any future swaps or upgrades or replacements, likely you'd be looking at having to move the head of the bolts to the inside of the housing, which, at least on this one, will clear the auger. However, that would move the skid shoe to the outside as long as the replacement can be adjusted to fit around the geometry of the stamped housing here. For reference, the slots are 5 inches on center, 13 millimeter to get it loose. There's only a small amount of adjustability built in from flush
The holes for the bolts are slotted and allows you to drop that down, but it bottoms out at 1/4 inch, no more.
Quick little addendum here, just realized the skid shoes are different between the left and the right. We've got this one here that we've been looking at with that 5-inch spacing, and then opposite side, different design. Let's look at that real quick. Over here on this side, the center to center spacing on those slots is about 2 3/8 on my machine. And the skid shoe looks like this. It's possible, cutting down on the length, you might be able to fit an alternate skid shoe on the inside of this, but outside's probably still going to be the way to go, and this one should be even easier with a completely flat surface to work with. Here's a quick peek of the two side by side and the differences they entail. Time will tell how well these skid shoes hold up, but I'm not necessarily optimistic. I've already got scratches showing up here on the bottom surface just from scooting it around here in the kitchen. Moving up here to the operating end, we've got heated handle grips for anyone that wants to trade some run time for a little bit of extra comfort. And then I believe new on this for the single stage snowblowers, we've got operating handles for both the pan of the chute and the tilt. Here working with the handle to adjust the rotation of the chute, we've got a good amount of feedback and resistance in the mechanism to the point where I feel like I can set it right where I want, have it lock into place, positive engagement, and it won't be jostled out of location by accident. Angle-wise with the rotation, you're allowed just a hair past 90. It goes to 100 degrees right to 100 degrees left. And then in getting it set up, you'll just want to watch out for that cord I was messing with earlier, stuffing it inside the housing. You'll just want to make sure you have enough slack in there between it and the chute to allow it to rotate all the way to the right without catching on anything. With adjusting the rotation of the chute, there's no extra steps to do on the handle, no triggers to pull, simply pushing or pulling and working through that resistance and feedback built into it to hold it in place and keep it from being accidentally jostled. Meanwhile, for the handle to adjust the angle of the chute, we have 5 preset positions, adjusted by tilting the handle inward, sliding down to the notch you want, and dropping it into place. Angles ranging from here, fully open, next, 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 and fully down. The unsqueaking seems to operate fairly smoothly and easily. Note that with the SNT2134, it comes with the 2 6-amp hour batteries, but you only need one, strictly speaking, to run it. 2 just increases the power, runtime, throw, all that good stuff. But you can get away with 1 in a pinch. And in this case, at least according to Ego, a pinch is 3 inches of snow or less when it's icy or wet. So you're gonna want the 2, most anytime. Also, store your batteries indoors. High heat, low cold, both bad for the battery in different ways. High heat, as far as I know, degrades the batteries faster, affects longevity. Cold, that's gonna cut the runtime lower, gonna make them perform worse, die faster. Either way, this battery here, got with my lawnmower, 6 years old, used every season, stored indoors, summer, winter, not kept on the charger, plugged in, let it just charge down to 30% or whatever it needs to automatically do, but I've lost maybe 10 minutes of runtime on it. Maybe. Still usually cuts my whole lawn unless it's sopping wet. Works great. Take care of your batteries. And at the very least, don't let them get above or below the temperatures they recommend here. Leaving them in the car? No, don't do it. Looking at the battery compartment down here,
Lift up on the little handle. Underneath we have 2 Ferris screws attracted to 2 magnets set in the base of the unit. Get it down close enough and snap shut. However, beyond the magnets, there is no mechanical lock to keep this closed. And the magnets, they're okay, but they're not exerting a ton of force. Beyond that, looking down here and up here, there is no kind of gasket to seal between the housing and the lid when the lid is closed to prevent water intrusion. So instead, they are relying upon this little lip molded into the housing. It goes from about an 1/8 inch down to a 1/16, up to a 1/4, and then down to about a 32nd. I don't love this right here. Closing it down, that's right on top. Snow's gonna pile up there, start to melt, whether it's from the heat of the battery, and it seems likely it's gonna intrude in through there, drip down into the bottom, and hang out in the battery basins. There are some cutouts that I can see daylight through where water may work its way out of, but there's no slope, no channels directing water to those locations, so it doesn't seem like a purpose-built solution. With that in mind, if you're having to swap the batteries out in the middle of a snowstorm, you'll want to be quick about it or get up under shelter first before opening that up. For anyone not familiar with the Ego products, the batteries are interchangeable, can be used throughout all the tools. Interfaces are fairly similar. Slots in, drops in, push down, locks into place when the button pops back up. With the batteries installed, let's come back up here to talk about a couple other features we haven't discussed yet. Here in the middle, we've got our Auger speed control dial. Forward is faster, backwards is slower, better for battery, better for power. Fairly straightforward. Down here, 3 buttons. First button here, that's going to be your heated handle grip button. Press on to activate, light turns on to let you know it's on. Press it down again, turns it off. And it looks like for those of you interested in using the heated handles, they're going to range from just a little bit below body temperature up to quite a bit of ways above. Middle, we've got our headlights. Headlights, there's 4 of them installed on here. Pressing it once turns them on. We've got 2 up here on the handlebars and then 2 more down here by the auger, helping you see. Pressing it a second time, we'll switch from a steady beam to a flashing beam. And pressing it a third time, we'll turn them off. Lastly, Bluetooth button here. No fancy speakers or anything like that on here. Manual says it's an IoT Internet of Things button, which lets you connect to the Ego Connect app and lets you update the firmware if that's ever needed. I don't imagine I'd ever need that, but there it is. From up here at the handles, you do have easy line of sight on both status of charge lights on either battery, letting you know where you're at and keeping track of things. However, there is, if that's ever covered in snow, an additional light built into the handlebars up here, letting you know where you're at. Steady or flashing green should be good to go. Flashing amber likely means you got a clog you'll need to deal with. Steady amber means the battery's overheating, they need to cool down. Getting into flashing red, low battery, and then various error messages with flashing red, green. All that said, a couple other things before we fire it up for a quick test run. On the side here, we've got 9-inch wheels, hard plastic, not rubber, so it's gonna ride real stiff on top of everything. Looking over here at the front, but as you see on the side, 21-inch max clear path with a 13-inch intake. Here at the auger, we've got 2 paddles. Those are replaceable as needed if they become cracked or damaged. Speaking of replaceable parts, beyond the rubber paddles for the auger that come in a pair, we've also got the drive belt, scraper bar, and skid shoes as user replaceable parts. Included in the manual here, we have instructions. Replacing the skid shoes, fairly straightforward. 2 bolts in and out, adjust height as needed. Replacing the scraper bar, also fairly straightforward. You do have to loosen up the back half of the skid shoe at least and rotate it out of the way since it traps the scraper bar underneath it. And then loosen up all those bolts and replace. Rubber paddles. Couldn't be easier. Lastly, the drive belt contained within that side of the unit there. Popping off one skid shoe and all those extra screws, you'll be able to access that, get in there, and do what needs to be done. Instructions all included. And here we go. Let's fire it up. Power button down, bail switch up. And we've got the auger. Up, 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 up. Squeaks a little.
And for the heck of it, here it is in the dark. It's a little noisy. Louder than I was expecting.
Lastly here for storage, of course we're going to take those batteries out. Close that lid down. Then we're going to take the rotation. We're going to push that all the way forward so it's pointing to the left. We're going to take the chute angle. We're going to close that all the way down. Then from here, it should loosen up those lever bars and slip right on over before closing it back down. Here again, having to fiddle with those plastic teeth. Don't love it. I still don't love it. Try this side first. No, not going. Might be too tight. That might be a user error. But I'd love it if I didn't have to mess with it. Alright, we'll just pretend that's locked and in position. To handle, manual says you should grab this handle here and under this lip here. Lift and move. With the batteries out, it weighs in at 66 pounds. Not light, but not heavy. Just awkward. Mainly just awkward. Manageable. Otherwise, well, I guess I can't do that, can I? Now, I don't know why the tension's set to lock in good up here at the top, even a little loose on that side, that it wouldn't work perfectly fine at the bottom, but it just ain't going. Again, maybe user error. I could be an idiot, but let's see if I can figure this out. So, counterintuitively, the manual says that if the side rails can't be fully secured, I need to tighten the bolts and not loosen, which is good if that works because there's not a lot to untighten on that thing. Let's see.
Tightening didn't work. Absolutely not. Feels like I'm gonna break it trying to throw those levers closed. Let's try the other way.
Oh hey, quick note. With this in this position, I look in here and pop that out. There is actually a second nut on there, possibly acting as a jam nut. We'll fiddle with that and maybe take it off, see if we can get a little bit more throw in the lever. So what if we pop that first one off and let us back the other one off a little further? Maybe Loctite if we need it. With just one on there to let the lever throw a little further, I can get it locked in with some effort, but that don't do anything. So, mystery continues. Just for good measure, got both sides loosened up enough to throw and close, and still lifts. Not so sure what's going on here.
So now that we put it through its paces and seen what happens, definitely thinking I misread that note in the manual, and what it really means is if I can throw the levers like I just did there and still have the side rails move, I need to tighten the nuts. But I just don't see how I can tighten it down anymore and not break something trying to get the lever locked in. It's already so much resistance in there. There's got to be something I'm missing, but I don't know what it is.
One thought I have is that maybe the handle needs to be set at a very specific angle up or down to lock in, but unlike at the top here where we have an arrow clearly indicating where it needs to be to set in place and lock, flipping it over, there is nothing there, so it seems like just resting where it sets should be where it needs to be. But it's nothing. I feel like I'm gonna break it.
So opening myself up here to being absolutely wrecked in the comments by someone pointing out something super obvious, I welcome it. Please let me know. But for the time being, this is a con for me. This should just work. Should be easy, seamless, no issues. Tension at the top, locked in, should be the same as at the bottom. Maybe there's something jammed up in there. I'll have to look. I'll have to talk to Ego. I'm gonna leave all this in here just in case someone else struggling through the same thing, trying to figure out if they're crazy or not. Maybe we both are. Let's be friends.
All right. I don't know what's going on. I can't figure it out. Update maybe later on that. But let's just pretend I've got it figured out and that handle is locked in, dead set. Beyond carrying it as I showed previously, easier would just be to lift up on that handle and roll it around. Set it up for storage, like that.
Now, one other thing I've got my eyes on that I can't really say one way or the other on is an issue I had with my lawnmower, where this may be similar, is wires running down from the handle and into the unit itself, crossing through into the body here where the handle pivots, eventually got pinched and severed to the point where I had to splice a connection in there in order to get it to run. I'm seeing here we've got good casing around the wires, but it goes from a nice straight run and gets contorted and pulled underneath to the point where, fitting in there, if I go to lock that lever, feels like I'm gonna start wearing away at that. I don't know for sure, just something I'll keep an eye on.
Final thoughts on first impressions? Do I regret my purchase? No, but I do have reservations and disappointments, all in all. I think and hope it's going to have the power I need to clear my driveway. It's about 12 by 75 feet long, narrow shot. And yeah, really hoping it performs because I will be well past my return window by then. Getting the extra batteries to use in my other tools is a perk, but I don't have a ton of tools. I've only got the lawnmower and a string trimmer, so it's a pro, but not a huge one. I do like that up top we've got controls for both the rotation and the angle of the chute. I don't love the sounds that I'm hearing with the chute and the auger squeaking metal on metal. Probably some lubrication will take care of it, but manual makes no mention of it and says that everything should be lubricated good enough to start for the lifetime of the machine. The inclusion of skid shoes in the design is a nice addition after years of customer feedback having to bodge together their own solutions just to make their snowblowers work for them, whether that was adding skid shoes of their own or wheels, whatever they needed to do to make it work for what should just work straight out of the box. But then right away on the other side of that coin, the custom nature of these skid shoes feels anti-consumer, like they're trying to lock you into their ecosystem and get you as more reoccurring revenue as you buy replacements after replacements after replacements. I don't think it's going to be impossible to retrofit your own skid shoes onto this snowblower, but they definitely made it more difficult by the choices they made in the design. And at least right now in mid-October 2024, looking online, these are not yet for sale. So I don't know what kind of costs are going to be incurred if you do decide to replace in kind through Ego directly. Obviously they are a wear part, they will need to be replaced over time, but finding out both the pricing on these as well as how well they hold up, how quickly they'll wear down and need to be replaced, will play a big factor in how I feel about the whole design decision they made here. I'm also looking forward to finding out if there's an easy answer for why I'm having issues locking my handle in at the storage position, or if there's not an easy answer and there's an issue and it's more widespread than just me. Anything I find out, I'll let you know when I have a chance. And that about wraps up what I have to say at this time about the SNT2134 Ego Snowblower. Once again, not a review, haven't used it yet, so I can't really endorse if you should or should not buy it, but I wanted to put together and get this information out there for anyone looking to purchase so you had more information to make your decision than I had in mine. Definitely, if you can hold off on making that purchase until more full reviews have come out, I would. Companies aren't your friends. You don't have to take their claims at face value or trust their word. You don't owe them your loyalty. Resist the hype, wait until you can get your information from a wide variety of sources, and then make your calls accordingly. Anyway, I hope this was helpful. Take care. Talk to you later, maybe.